Today in the Nerdy Gritty, the debate on Marvel's impact on cinema.
One more world disappears inside it. Just another hopeless addict. Well, that makes a man instead. If the drums don't get you, the guitars will.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I am your auteur, classic cinematographer, and director, Fox.
And then pan over, who's that guest starring in this episode? It's Dez. Oh,
in the after credit
in the
scene,
post-credit
we get Dez
scene
leading up to the next one. Today we are talking about just kind of the debate that has continued and recently been brought up by some filmmakers about Marvel's impact on the world of cinema today. It's been going on for literal years now.
Yeah.
And Martin Scorsese is really the one that kind of started this with a hot take that came out a couple years ago. And so today, we're gonna talk.
Did he specifically say they're not art?
We're gonna get there. We've got some stuff that's gonna be laughable.
But literally laughable.
Before all of that, we're gonna make Martin Scorsese angry and create the Scorsese verse.
The Scorsese verse.
What would if it was Martin Scorsese, but it was a Marvel Cinematic Universe style of storytelling? What movie would be what? What characters would show up when? How would this all work together? So I mean, he's got a lot of movies.
Yes, obviously. Just scrolling through his directed by right now.
It's
on
a lot
IMDb.
of stuff.
I think we obviously has to say, number one, New York centric.
Oh, 100%.
And number two, Mafia centric.
Mafia and New York. Yeah. I mean, you got to have various characters around the.
Oh, 100%. But in the same way, like the Marvel verse is superhero centric.
Sure. Yeah. No. I'm saying Mafia centric for sure.
Yeah.
Locations wise, though, I mean, I think Casino takes place in
Los Angeles.
Vegas.
Yeah, Las Vegas.
I can't remember that. I mean, the irony of all this is that I've seen a bunch of his movies.
They all
blend together in my mind because they
really
kind of have
do.
a pretty similar. So, Marty, a little hypocritical there, huh? So the question is, if we're gonna craft this narrative, overarching narrative, what is the mafia centric, like that? Let's even widen that out. Crime centric, maybe just like underground crime centric. Who are the characters that are really gonna create the Scorsese Avengers, the Avengers of the Scorsese verse?
I mean, for me, huge one, the Goodfellas.
Well, sure, yeah, the Goodfellas just show up. I mean, I think Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. He might be one of them who's kind of an anti-hero he's like a Punisher.
The
type
Punisher
guy.
of the. I mean, they're all gonna be anti-heroic,
which would be interesting.
In fact, I don't know if any of them are heroic.
Yeah, he doesn't really. Well,
I mean,
one of the good things about Martin Scorsese is that he doesn't really deal with black and white very much.
No.
And I understand, again, we're going to get into this because that's kind of where he's coming from with what he's talking about. But, so in that case, we need to shift. What is the goal here? Who is the Thanos of, the big overarching, like, oh no, we have to stop this threat kind of thing of the Scorsese verse? Because if that's the goal, then it doesn't have to be black and white, good versus evil.
Right.
It just needs to be a threat of some kind. So what are we trying? What are these Avengers show? We got.
Here's my 100% my take on that. I was because I thought about this exact same thing. A lawful evil, basically. Mayor coming in.
Yeah.
That his whole thing is, I'm going to crack down on the mafia. But at the end of the day, he's going to take over all of it.
Yes.
It's
all like a Wilson Fisk or like a. In real life,
Lex Luthor,
Rudy Giuliani kind of thing, where I mean, we don't have to get too real with it, but yeah, some kind of
that's he is gonna come with the guise of I'm here to take down these bad guys.
I'm here to take over.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's fun. We're gonna dunk on Martin Scorsese a little bit later.
We
in a way,
sure are.
Our intention is not to just laugh at somebody the whole time. We're gonna really discuss the different variations. But before that, of course, hey, let's talk about some news.
This one is like, huge oofs.
Let's hear it.
Have you heard about The Activist, the reality TV show?
No. Try to stay out of reality.
So here's an NPR article.
Okay.
CBS backtracks on The Activist after a backlash,
already
including
sounds
from one of its
dumb.
hosts. So here's what happened. CBS wanted to make a reality TV show in which 6 people who have some sort of like activist goal, some sort of humanitarian goal, organization, are competing for a certain amount of money to be able to start their humanitarian goal or to start their organization or whatever else. And there are competitions and there are judges, very reality TV style.
I hate reality TV. I mean, obviously it's not reality. That's the tired reason, but it's still true. But it's just like, let's gamify life, kind of. And it's just so fake.
Real quick, guys. Worst. Fox and I happen to personally know people who have been on very popular reality TV show. Yeah, called Gold Rush. Like, and these are personal friends of ours, people that we know. Reality TV is not real.
Of course
not. The stories they'll tell.
It's all scripted at least, or just, I don't know. Like the one I've watched that I actually really enjoyed was Deadliest Catch. Because it was just this cool drama, but at the same time, it just reality TV is a weird way to basically rename game shows. Yeah, most of the time.
Anyway, but so this was the premise of it, and then people started saying, "Hey, with all the money you're spending on costuming and syndicating and all this other stuff, you could just fund all of them.
Just give them all, split it 6 ways, and give it to them." Yeah,
and so one of the hosts came out publicly and was like, "You guys are actually right.
Yeah.
You're very right, and I'm sorry." Wow. It's already done filming, but wow. So now CBS is pulling the entire show and turning it into a 1-hour documentary.
There you go. I mean, man, that is read the room.
Who thought that was a good idea? That is 100% capitalism at work.
It's corporate think,
You know what people think right now? They think activism is good. How can we monetize
people like activism, and reality TV show is reliable. Let's make both. Let's do both. Well, I do want to, thank you for the news, but I do want to welcome you to Gamer Gear Corner.
Oh, no.
Sponsored by Gamer Gear. That's right. This is Gamer Gear Corner, a segment that we
Des has left the room.
I'm still going to talk about this. Yes, that's right. If the pictures that you have on your walls at home are surrounded by 60 frames per second, then Gamer Gear Corner is for you. And I've got 2 big things to talk about today in Gamer Gear Corner. One of them is that IKEA introduced a new line of furniture and gear for gamers. That's right, not just some one-off thing and not just some gaming company. It's IKEA. And it's a whole line of stuff.
All right, I want to try and name at least one of the furnitures here, because all of them have like not all of them, but a lot of them have like subtle references to. I'm gonna say that one of them, at least one of them, is called like Play, like PLAI, maybe. No.
Here's the names. There are 6 product families, over 30 products in this line, and 6 product families called Oopspel, Lanespelare, Matchspel, Groupspel, Utispelar, and Hoodvoodspelar. I said all of those wrong, obviously.
Right.
But, okay, so
I'm fairly certain, I'm like 90% sure that all IKEA names are nonsensical, purposely.
Sure.
Nonsensical.
I don't know. Yeah. It doesn't matter. You know what else is nonsensical? Gamer Gear. So it's a match made in heaven, really. A lot of these things are literally pre-existing IKEA products that are just kind of given a quote-unquote gamer treatment. So one of them is Pegboard that just has like it's gray with like a graphic kind of on it, and it's nothing different than what they already sell.
If you are going to create gamer gear, the only thing that I want on it that is going to make it different from anything else is if it has video game related IP on it.
Yeah, if it literally is branded with video game stuff, then I can understand.
That's gamer gear. It's stuff for people who play video games specifically.
Or things specifically designed for playing video games.
Right.
That enhance the video game experience specifically. Because here's the red alert, or here's the news. There are chairs in this. They're not in any way different from other chairs, except for that they're like black and red.
These are cozy, and so you can sit in them for a much longer time. Yes. Yeah, because nobody else sits in a chair for a long time.
Right. You know, like my favorite is that they have mouse pads.
Mm.
That's not gamer gear. Mouse pads are mouse pads. Yes, you could use them while gaming, but that does not make them gamer gear.
No.
There are desks. They're just desks.
You have mentioned everything. Every one of the things that you mentioned so far is something that my wife would love, and she does not play video games.
Or at least even she would use.
Yeah.
Doesn't even have to love them. She would use them.
A nice desk, a nice desk chair,
Sure.
a nice mouse pad.
It's a standard thing people have. There are 2 items that I've seen in this product line that I would say, okay, maybe I'll call that gamer gear. One of them is a little like stand / like holder peg thing for a pair of headphones. Maybe people use headphones that don't play video games, so it really doesn't fall under it. But
I mean,
it is
any sort of
something.
Audio designer, video designer,
100%.
graphic designer.
I think the
anybody-
best example, and still doesn't necessarily fall under it, is a tray with wheels that is supposed to be for your computer tower, your CPU. And again, computers have those. Not a lot of people who like don't game have those bigger like computer towers. You know, laptops, you don't need those and stuff. But it is a nice, cool, convenient thing, especially if you're pulling it out and stuff a bunch or trying to get to them. I am trying my very best to give them a little bit of like, maybe I can see that, but it's a lot of it is literally just other products they have with a new skin on them. Well, my gamer gear was my news for
That's
the
a good
day.
that's a
So
good news.
I
I'm
think it's
happy with
time to
that.
get into what we've been doing.
Yeah. I haven't been doing a lot, so I will say that last night I watched Kate.
Oh, the new Netflix? That's a new
Yeah,
Netflix
yeah,
one with
with
what's
Mary
her
Elizabeth
face?
Winstead.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead, yes.
And I enjoyed the movie. I liked it more when it was Gunpowder Milkshake like a
Oh.
few months ago.
That's one I still haven't watched.
But it's Gunpowder Milkshake, but less fun,
Hmm.
more serious. But other than that, it's girl assassin finds younger girl that she needs to protect type of thing.
Sure.
And there's also an element of like Crank in there where she's poisoned and she needs to find a
I
cure or
see.
whatever
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
And it gets pretty dramatic, but I kid you not, and I won't spoil it in case anybody wants to watch it if they're excited for it. But you don't need to see this; you really don't.
Okay.
But I will say that 15 minutes in the movie, I looked at my wife and I predicted the big twist.
I'm sure she loves that every time you do it.
And but here's what I will say about it and why I won't spoil it, because everything it does is a canned thing that's been done before. It is absolutely by the numbers,
Okay.
but it does all of it very well. Woody Harrelson is great.
There's something to be said for a very good action movie.
Yeah,
that
it is that. Mary Elizabeth Winstead does great. The young girl that she is sort of protecting is great. Also, like, everybody crushes their roles. There's definitely, I'm almost positive it's got to be a Japanese film that they had Woody Harrelson and Mary Elizabeth come in for,
sure.
because everything takes place in Japan. Everybody else speaks Japan. A lot of subtitles.
They speak
Speaks
Japan.
Speaks Japanese. There's a lot of subtitles, things like that. But all that to say that everybody is a great actor, and it's
Sure.
a really well-made movie, and it's really pretty, and it's done well for what it's trying to do. But what it's trying to do is absolutely canned,
Just by the
absolutely
numbers.
predictable. Yeah,
All right.
it is the 5-iest 5 of a movie that I've ever seen. So
Okay.
yeah.
As far as movies go, I went and saw a movie called The Card Counter. This was one that I was excited about seeing. I saw a trailer for it at one point, and then I forgot about it. And then on Sunday, I was like, I'm going to go see a movie. Everything at the Regal theaters where I'd already seen or I wasn't interested in, but then I looked at some of our local places, and this place it's called The Card Counter and was playing at one of our local theaters. It is Paul Schrader, written and directed by Paul Schrader, who wrote some Scorsese movies like Raging Bull, and also he's a pretty
Prolific?
Prolific in a sense. He has a lot of really well written movies under his belt, and I was mostly excited because his last movie was called First Reformed, and it's one of my favorite movies from the last 5-10 years, maybe the last 5 years, and so I was like, cool, and it's got Oscar Isaac. I'm in. I'm gonna go see it. So the basic plot is there is a card counter, a guy who goes to casinos and plays cards and is good at it.
Yeah.
And has a history. He was in the military. I'm trying to be vague here because I do think it's worth watching.
Okay.
he was in the military, is specifically involved with enhanced interrogation, also known as torture. And it's essentially about him and dealing with the PTSD of that, as well as meeting another person who has a connection to that world as well. And the movie essentially acts as this guy, Oscar Isaac, is trying to find redemption for what he did by helping this kid who has plans, essentially. I don't want to get too specific, and it's a fairly complicated story, so it'd be hard to kind of describe the whole thing. So anyway, it was pretty good. I'd say it was pretty good. The plot was unpredictable, which is always fun. And all the characters were well defined and well written. I will say though that one of the three main characters that shows up is Tiffany, played by Tiffany Haddish, who I don't enjoy her comedy style. She's very loud and bombastic with her comedy, which is just not my thing. It's not against her
preference.
But she is playing she has some funny moments, and she's the most like personable and charismatic of the characters. Her job is she has a stable of gamblers who she kind of manages, and so she has a lot of people skills and talks more. But I don't know if she doesn't, to my knowledge, have a lot of dramatic acting experience, mostly comedy. And to watch her and Oscar Isaac interact in very specific roles, it was very clear to me that their level of their acting ability was just on two different planes, and it was distracting.
I got turned on to a new musical called
Oh, no.
Come From Away. And
I've heard of this. Yeah, it's
spectacular is what it is. It's on Apple Plus, Apple TV.
Is this the one about 9/11?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I don't know if I didn't know this. Wholeheartedly admit I didn't know this. Did you know that in Newfoundland, this small island off of Canada, they had 38 like jumbo jet airplanes land at their airport, and they just kept them there for 3
because
days?
within a couple hours of
9/11, they closed American airspace.
They closed American airspace. All planes, basically, maybe not worldwide, maybe worldwide, were grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's this beautiful musical that's a compilation. Compilation is not the right word, but it's all just true stories.
Okay.
Things that happened there.
Okay, so like vignettes kind of thing, like series of vignettes.
And that's why I don't want to say compilation. They're not series of vignettes. It is to a time frame.
Okay.
They are starting at the beginning and ending, but
sure.
They'll touch on a different, like there's I think 15 people in the musical, and each person plays at least 3 parts.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so they touch on different characters. They go back and forth, and they do it real well. The set is, I want to say 2 tables and 15 chairs, and that's the set.
Huh.
And their acting is what sells everything.
Sure. Yeah.
Their storytelling, their writing is brilliant. The music is all Celtic based, which is wonderful and so much fun. Their costuming, they have to hide the costumes and all kinds of things, but like one character will throw off a jacket and put on a hat, and then he's a different character now.
Oh,
and that's how you know that they're all these different characters, and they all put on accents. But every time that they put on an accent, they have to make sure that the casting director has made sure that everybody represents the culture that they should. You know, there are actual African people that are played by African Americans, and et cetera, et cetera. And so, well done. But overall, it is a story of human compassion, and legitimately get choked up every time I listen to it. I've listened to it on repeat like over and over again recently. It's so good. I've actually watched it. It's on Apple TV Plus right now. And oh man, guys, if you can stand musicals, that's what I'll say, go watch Come From Away just for the stories of human compassion that are in this. Like the one that absolutely chokes me up every single time is there's a little story about an African family, like from Africa, that are on a bus being taken from the airplane, but they've been on this airplane for like 15 hours. They don't know what's happening.
Sure.
They speak Swahili. Nobody speaks Swahili. They can't be communicated to. All they know is they're stuck on a plane, and now they're being put on a bus and driven somewhere.
Man.
And they get there, and they have one character says, "Oh, we never use them much, but we bring out our National Guard uniforms to help welcome everybody." And then they have the African guy say, there are soldiers everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so there's this, and the person says, okay, so we try and get them off the bus. We try and get them to come, but they're scared and they don't want to get off the bus. But then he sees that the wife is holding a Bible. And he says, it's not in my language, but I can point out numbers and where the book is and whatever else. And he points out Philippians 4:6. Do not be anxious about anything.
Man, that's cool.
Oh, so good.
That's fun.
So good. Yeah. So all the stories are stories like that. And just these again, stories of human compassion and connection, and communication. And it's so good. So good. So go watch Come From Away, everybody. It's very good.
That's all I've got.
And that's all I've got. Well, I guess that we should probably...
Hey, I've got an idea. Actually, let's get down to the nerdy gritty.
Oh, okay. Good call. Good call.
Cool. Yeah.
Before we do that, though, we want to let you guys know that before this, you were listening to an edited version of the Nerdy Gritty, but it's only before this. Everything after this is entirely unedited, but before this, we talk about a lot more, and we edit it down because it's kind of our just casual conversation. We edit that down for our casual listeners. If you want to be a hardcore listener, though, if you want to be the elite Desmond Fox Nerdy Gritty nerd,
Get some IKEA game gear.
get some IKEA
Gamer gear. And then listen to the...
Get the Game Gear, the Sega Genesis
Yeah,
handheld portable.
Definitely the most successful.
No, you can head over to patreon.com/DesmondFox and you can become a patron of ours. At the second tier and higher, you get access to the director's cut of the Nerdy Gritty, and it is an unedited version of the Nerdy Gritty, which includes, again, sometimes up to half an hour, 45 minutes more content whenever we go ridiculously long. Usually it's about 20 minutes more content for you guys if you just want to hear us banter and talk about all kinds of stuff. Either way, we really appreciate it when you tell your friends, when you just do word of mouth, and we just appreciate your support and your listening. Thanks again, guys, and now let's truly get down to the Nerdy Gritty.
For about 2-ish years now, for a couple years, right about after Endgame came out, a quote-unquote debate started. And I say quote-unquote because it's just kind of people offering their opinions.
Right.
There's not really any kind of like debate being, nobody's in a hall at a college debating somebody about this. It's more just kind of various people giving their opinions, but it has been continuing. In fact, recently some more people have offered their opinions. This has basically been about the impact of the Marvel Cinematic Universe on cinema and whether or not Marvel's Cinematic Universe movies, and to a certain extent superhero movies in general, could be considered capital C cinema. This whole thing started when Martin Scorsese, one of the most well-known, beloved, successful
creator of the Scorsese-verse.
Creator of the Scorsese-verse. Thank you for doing that. It's wonderful. He, in an interview, somewhat off the cuff, it felt, offered his take on the Marvel movies. Remember, this was after Endgame. So after this, that was the 21st? After
something like
a couple, of nearly 24 of these movies had come out. And he essentially did not have nice things to say about them, to put it lightly. I mean, he didn't outright, I don't know. It's really up to your interpretation, but let me give you a sample of what he said. In response, I don't see them. I tried, obviously referring to the Marvel movies.
Right.
But that's not cinema, Scorsese told Empire. This is an interview with Empire magazine. Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being. So there's much longer. If you just Google this, you'll find these.
Absolutely.
It's very easy to find these.
It was a big deal.
Since recently, this has been brought up again. And what we want to do today is not really. I mean, we're gonna give our opinion, of course.
Yeah.
But we're not really just here to debate that, because what we want to do is kind of talk about the various viewpoints that have been put out there. There's been some on both sides, some kind of are in the middle, and just kind of talk about, maybe there's some points being made, and maybe maybe that doesn't really hold up. So let's just start right there. That was kind of the ground zero. Here's where all this started. What's your take on what he's saying?
So we talked about this a little bit earlier, where there's definitely some thoughts that not that I can get behind, but I can understand where they're coming from, and I will play devil's advocate a little bit as we go through here. But what is my actual take on all of this is it very much is to me it reflects when people were talking about video games, saying that video games are not art.
Sure.
And there was that question that Penny Arcade posed of, if you put a dozen artists in a room and have them work on their art for a year, how can what they produce afterward not be art?
Yeah.
And it's the exact same thing to me to say that these are not cinema. If you take a bunch of filmmakers and you put them together and have them work on making a film together, how is the end not cinema? Like, how is the end not art? It's a sense of elitism
Yes.
and gatekeeping that is bad.
Here's what here maybe to kind of frame the conversation. There is a definition of cinema. It essentially is movie making.
Right.
It's cinema, or I mean, in other ways, a cinema is a place, a movie theater. But there, so when we say that, when the definition of the dictionary definition of cinema is making movies, then by definition, Martin Scorsese is wrong.
Right.
Like without debate. I mean, you can debate a dictionary definition, but he is wrong. And so what that means is that we have to assume that he is referring to something different than the actual denotation of cinema. He's actually talking about a connotation of cinema, where we have to make an assumption, I suppose, at this point, where he's talking about kind of the elevated artistry that cinema should provide to the audience, and it's creating something that transcends. I don't mean to sound like dismissive here, but that is where he's going with this, because he is wrong by definition.
Right. And that he is objectively wrong.
He's objectively wrong, but subjectively, he just has his opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how we have to frame this conversation: is cinema a subjective term? Can that describe the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the films that are contained within?
And here's where I get a little bit on the devil's advocate here, and here's where I'm like, man, I kind of see it. And this is the correlation I'm going to draw. Imagine you are 5-star chef at a restaurant. You are Wolfgang Puck. You are Gusto from Ratatouille, whatever it is.
All equally
all
great.
Those, Emeril Lagasse, whatever. You
sure, him,
are
him too, I guess.
I will name chefs for you if you want me to name chefs.
I don't know if he's on the same level as
Cooking
like
is-
Wolfgang Puck.
Oh,
but
I'll fight. Emeril Lagasse is a genius.
Let's
Anyway.
move on.
So, then you get some pretty good cooks, some like decently good cooks. They're not on your level. That's the reality of it. They're not on your level, but they get picked up by QSRs, quick service restaurants, fast food places, and these places have so much money to put behind these middling chefs, and they tell these middling chefs, don't make quality food, make food that people will really enjoy. And now these chefs, their goal is, okay, I what's the middle ground here? What's food that's good food? It's people are going to like it.
Yeah.
They're really going to enjoy it, but also it's easy, quick to make, it's simple, whatever else. You can see how Wolfgang Puck at that point would be like, that's not chef. That's not culinary art.
Sure.
You are mass producing this.
There's a purpose behind this rather than the art being the singular purpose.
Right. Now, yes, sure. You are a chef who is making food, and what the thing that is coming out of there is food, but the culinary artistry is lost in this. And I don't know if I agree with that, but I can definitely see that argument.
Sure, yeah. I mean, if we want to say that there is different levels of cinematic intent, and one of those levels is entertainment, and one of those levels is pure artistry, we still are going by subjective definitions of those things, because somebody, a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie could be both, and The Irishman could be both.
Right.
Then yes, I can understand a level of, okay, your purpose here is something beyond just creating art, and that I can understand where he's coming from. There's maybe I don't know if honesty is the right way to put it, but a level of artistic intent that is, I could understand being watered down when you have purposes like making sure it connects to these other movies, making sure it's these characters that already exist and have a certain theme and ideas to them, and even names, and like having to make sure that you get all of these ideas in there that are the correct ones. Like there's a predisposition that already exists that is not the same as I'm setting out to tell a taxi driver, or
Right,
where
right.
it's I get to tell the story I want about a character who I'm creating from whole cloth, and there's a message I'm bringing to it. So sure, I can understand that devil's advocate. Yes,
But I'm already going to push back on that. I'm going to debate myself here and say, just because the subject matter there, let's take, for example, Watchmen. Watchmen, I think, is a spectacular artistic film that touches on government control and midlife crises and like so many important
heroism
things.
and
What is heroism, and so many vitally important things that it's an incredible piece of art to me. I love the movie Watchmen. Fantastic job. One of the few things that I would say that the movie is almost better than the book, and so
Oh, got chills on that one. Oh, this is not our purpose.
I would.
Moving on.
But and on top of that, I'd say it's better than some of Scorsese's movies. I think that Watchmen is probably, I would say, better than, say, The Departed. The Departed is. I think that,
Sure.
because, and if you want me to get into like the nitty gritty of it, I would say it's because
We don't do that here.
Yeah.
We get into the nerdy gritty.
Oh
Thank
yeah,
you.
well that's fair. This would definitely also be that, but I would say that's because The Departed is one that is very, very high in the level of thinking that needs to be done to be able to get into a lot of this. It asks a lot of the viewer. It's not a bad thing per se.
It is also a remake of another movie. So
The Departed is?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we can move on.
But either way, yeah. So, but it asks more of the watcher and expects more of the watcher to be able to get the most out of it. Whereas Watchmen is something that is far more applicable, far more relationally, socially applicable. Anybody who watches this can get something from that and walk away having known something more from it. I would say Watchmen is a better film for that.
Interesting.
Because it has a much more applicable and clear message that is equally artistic. And anyway, all this to say that your subject matter doesn't have to limit your art.
Sure. Yeah. It's a well, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It's a weird place. It's a wrong place to come from to say that because there are these purposes behind the MCU of creating an overarching story, of creating interconnected stories, of to say that therefore it's just a theme park and there is no human emotion is, I mean, I want to say objectively wrong.
Right.
And I mean, he kind of told on himself right off the start because he was like, I've tried, but they're just not for me.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
And
then
that's fine.
I understand not enjoying a genre, but if the purpose behind the Marvel Cinematic Universe is to tell an overarching story over so many, it's like, I watched Fellowship of the Ring. Wasn't for me, so I don't like any of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Well, if you didn't, if you weren't to, I think, properly criticize something, you probably need to,
or even to say I don't like high fantasy because I watched Lord of the Rings.
Sure,
and I didn't like
that's
it.
probably even
Yeah.
better. Yeah, and it's just like, to properly criticize, you probably need to experience it in the intent, at least in what its intent was. So to say there's no human emotion, but then to watch Iron Man and Tony Stark and the evolution he goes through these movies, each movie has some good character development, but overarching there's something being said throughout the entire thing. Like, you are not giving it the opportunity that it is asking, and you don't have to watch them. Nobody's like, you have to watch these, or you
must.
whatever. But if you're going to criticize them, then your opinion is somewhat invalid if you say, I didn't watch all of them. Well, okay, then what are you talking about? You have no idea. You can't have an honest opinion at that point.
Right. And I think actually let's because what really sparked this was recently Dennis Villeneuve.
There's a few things I want to get there.
Okay, yeah,
get to
okay,
there,
go ahead,
because there's been some more conversation. In fact, after Scorsese said this thing, there was an interview with Francis Ford Coppola, director of Dracula. I think what one of the famous Dracula movies.
Probably with Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Dracula. That's what it was.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman, yes. Very well beloved, and director of Godfather movies.
Right, that's what I know.
And then nothing else that's very well. I guess no, wait, we'll give him Apocalypse Now. But mostly everything else, whatever. Anyway, he in an interview, he basically went one step further and said Martin Scorsese was being nice. And I think his actual term was, "These are despicable," and I'm going to say it. And again, it came off as, it's like, I don't like them, basically, with more dramatic imagery and more dramatic terminology. After that, you had a few people kind of respond in the public. I mean, you've had a lot of people respond in the public, but some of the bigger ones, Jon Favreau responded, director of the one who basically kicked off the MCU,
right,
and arguably made it succeed with Iron Man.
Real quick, Godfather has a 100% Metacritic score.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, it's a perfect movie. It is, but
clearly
awesome.
Anyway, Jon Favreau came out and was like, "I disagree, but also I can see where you're coming from. And also, you've earned the right to make this opinion.
That's fair.
You're considered some of the greatest filmmakers of all time." To me, that's really a neutral thing. That's not really saying anything. If everybody has the right to an opinion on everything, a quote unquote right, they can have one. Nobody's gonna sure, great. It's basically saying nothing to me to say that you've earned the right. Everybody earns the right. You can say whatever you want. Whatever. The bigger one that came out, James Gunn, on Instagram, responded to these things, and I want to get to this specifically. Oh, dang it, I should have had this open already. But James Gunn had a very interesting take on it, as he usually does.
Yeah.
If you've seen his movies, he says a lot. It's usually they're ridiculous, but also very heartfelt, and he's just surprises you every time. Here we go. I got it open right here. On Instagram, here's what he said. "Many of our grandfathers thought all gangster movies were the same, often calling them despicable. He wrote, some of our great-grandfathers thought the same of Westerns and believed the films of John Ford, Sam Peckinpah, and Sergio Leone were all exactly the same. I remember a great uncle to whom I was raving about Star Wars. He responded by saying, I saw that when it was called 2001, and boy, was it boring. Superheroes are simply today's gangsters/cowboys/outer space adventures. Some superhero films are awful. Some are beautiful. Like Westerns and gangster movies, and before that, just movies.
Yeah.
Not everyone will be able to appreciate them, even some geniuses, and that's okay." Which, just, I mean...
Well said, sir.
Pretty devastating, really. It's just like, it's basically a more eloquent way to say, okay, boomer.
Yeah.
It's just like, there were a million Westerns, and most of them were nothing. But then there are some that came out that are incredible and will stand the test of time as being some of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah.
A lot of gangster movies came out, and some of them were incredible. Some
of them were real dumb.
And now we have, really since the late 90s, when the superhero craze kind of cranked up into motion with Blade and then your Spider-Man and your X-Men and that kind of thing. There's a lot of superhero movies. A lot of them are fine. Some of them are very bad. Some of them are incredible and have won. Will be remembered. They are remembered in a way that's basically saying, despite the fact that they are superhero movies, which is not fair, but that's how they're going to be remembered.
Right.
And this is just another trend. It's just old people or a one generation decrying the thing that this new generation likes.
It reminds me of somebody I spoke to recently who was saying that, the cell phones, cell phones are terrible. We're losing our minds on cell phones,
sure.
et cetera, blah, blah, blah.
Which, objectively true.
But
I am.
It's gone now. But
bye.
Whenever somebody says that, what I referred to is the fact that people said the exact same thing about the Gutenberg press.
Yep.
And who knows how long ago, because now all these people are just going to be reading. Now that they can just access books whenever they want, they're just going to be reading all the time. And then after that, it was general print, just like after that, newspapers.
Yep.
There's a lot of issues about newspaper. People are just going to know the news. They're going to spend their whole life worrying because now they know the news going around the world.
To be fair, kind of true, but
yeah. And then after that, it was the radio and then television and then the internet and now cell phones. And there's always been something that the previous generation is going to be worried about for the next generation. And you know what? In 20 years, there's going to be something new that all of us will have normalized cell phones, but that new thing is going to be what's going to be the death of our human race. And in the same way, I think there's going to be a new genre of film that's going to come out in a couple of decades that's going to be new and different or
even just a genre that
whatever.
becomes popular.
Yeah, becomes popular again. And it's going to be the new thing that all of us old folks shake our cane at and say that you've ruined cinema because when I was your age, we had them good superhero movies.
Cyber Scorsese will come out and be like, the MCU was the peak of cinematic storytelling.
Right.
And now you just have one movie at a time.
I mean,
what a waste.
I could even see exactly that being the complaint that once upon a time, we crafted these long-term stories amongst over 20 films, and now you're just happy with putting out your one film and walking
an hour
away
and 45
from it.
minutes, that's it.
Yeah,
you're not really able to tell a full story that way.
They're trying to can films and just push them out as fast as possible instead of making a big long narrative,
planning out this real believable world. That is 100% going to be said by somebody, and probably already is said by somebody. But again, it's at the end of the day, generations enjoy certain things. The next generation doesn't like them as much because they're not used to them. Whatever, all that. So let's move on a little bit.
Okay.
The thing we'll just kind of touch on here. Martin Scorsese then wrote an opinion piece for I think the New York Times or the something or other. I have it here somewhere, but he kind of just reiterated the same thing.
Right.
He didn't really. I mean, he got a little more nuance with it because the original interview was kind of off the cuff.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about that. That's just something that got brought up. He kind of said the same thing. And so to get to what you were referring to before, director Denis Villeneuve, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I still haven't learned. I should. Who has directed many movies so far, but is the director of the upcoming Dune film. He said, let's see. Hold on. Let me get his act. Perhaps the problem is that we are in front of too many Marvel movies that are nothing more than a cut and paste of others. Perhaps these types of movies have turned us into zombies a bit. That's essentially the core of what he's saying.
I just want to say that if you're criticizing a franchise for cutting and pasting because of your remake, because of your film remake of another film that's based on another book, that's pretty hypocritical.
It's the irony of I mean, or Blade Runner 2049. It's a sequel to other movies. Like it wasn't a cut and paste by any means. I don't think anybody could say it's just the same thing again. But Dune is the same story as the David Lynch Dune,
which is the same story as the
Frank
book.
Herbert book.
Yes,
it is a different style, a different interpretation, even maybe, but it's the same thing. It's the same story.
It's almost like if you can take similar outlines but add things to make it different art.
Yes.
Almost if you could do that.
Yes.
And this is why this particularly frustrates me. People say these things, that Marvel movies are all the same because they all follow the same sort of outline. Film does this. I still to this day will, and you guys can hear it in the podcast, we'll talk about this. We're like, and then when Act 3 came up, because we know in a film, this is when, everything is ruined, and now the hero has to,
you have your darkest moment.
Your darkest moment, and now the main character's got to rise back up. That's Act 3 starting now.
Yes.
There it is. And it's film, story, follows an outline, guys.
Yes.
It really does.
That is the basic hero of 1,000 faces.
Right.
Standard. It's why you have tropes. It's why you have it's why you have genres. in general. Like, it's because they can be categorized because there are similarities between them. There are better versions and there are less good versions.
Right.
But it's just a weird thing to talk about. Well, they're all the same. They're not. They follow standard story writing. Sure. None of some of them are less unique than others in how they do that, but they all follow the same thing. So it's like you're kind of dunking on yourself. Yeah. Because Dune has the same, like, it's got a different paint job, but it's about a young man who is in a new land and faces tragedy and then has to learn to overcome the oppressors.
I mean, if I remember
and
correctly,
take his rightful place. And
he finds out he's like a prophesied one or something. Like
it's a little, yes, there's a lot to it. But if we're talking in generalities, which they are, because if they got more nuance, they couldn't really say these things.
Right.
Then Dune is just cut and paste sci-fi. Yeah. With a pretty unique coat of paint compared to other sci-fi stories, but its basic structure is the chosen young hero who overcomes the oppressive evil force.
Yeah, I saw Dune when it was Star Wars, and I liked it better then.
And I liked, I mean, that thing that James Gunn talking about, like 2001 being Star Wars.
That's so wrong.
That's
wrong. And
I don't think
fight that guy.
I mean, it's clearly he hasn't seen Star Wars,
right?
But it's in space, so it's the same, I guess.
That's the only thing. The
2001
only
and Star Wars are so different from each other in every way. Like 2001 does not follow standard story writing.
No, it does not.
It's just so weird. But
it's very Kubrick. Go see 2001.
That's
Space
also
Odyssey,
based
guys.
on a book, but yes, it's just it does not follow the thing. So at the end of the day, there's been a few more like statements in the ether about this. It basically just has continued to basically be the two same sides of saying this is not good because it's just the same over and over again, or it's not true cinema, and the other side saying it's a new version of something that's happened for literally since film began, and you just don't seem to like it, and that's okay. So at the end of the day, I mean, what do we want to? How do we like? It's just a discussion, so it's not like there's a firm thing that has to happen. These movies are going to continue being made. There's also Martin Scorsese is going to keep making movies. He's got one on the near horizon called Killers of the Flower Moon, which I'm excited for. I'm also looking forward to Eternals. And I for me, I guess I'll just wrap up. It's okay to like both. Yeah, that's what I'll say. In fact, you should.
And here's what I'll say is don't judge a movie by its genre or its producer or
its
anything like that.
company.
Yeah, like there are some things you can say like it's the next Fast and the Furious movie, and so there are some things that I can expect from it. Yeah. But you can't say it's automatically going to be fill in the blank thing.
Sure.
And so
or if it is, it's bad or good.
Yeah, even just amongst Marvel movies, there are okay, maybe even not very good ones, and spectacular pieces of art
100%
that are just beautiful structures of film and acting and all these things. Like both of these things are true within the Marvel universe. To try and generalize to that extent is not why it's dumb, I guess. Just to be clear, like don't do that.
It's unintelligent. I could say it's a little immature. That's it's immature
exactly right. It is
to
immature.
Just say, well, because it's a superhero movie, it's not good. It's just a theme park, and it doesn't have any actual human emotion. And I would say, hey, Google, like, you cannot tell me that doesn't exist when you watch Endgame. Like, watch videos of people watching the climactic scene in Endgame, of Avengers Endgame, and entire cinemas at this, like, within the space of an hour, because it's a big long battle at the end, cheering and laughing and loving what's happening, and then sobbing. Yeah. Because this character that they've known for 11 years. Yeah. Has, spoilers, I guess, but has died. Yeah. And it's like, no, that is human emotion, right? That is connecting to an audience to see this character who started off as one thing, had a big long arc, and ended in a way that was the opposite of what he was. That is human emotion being put, and to say, well, he was a superhero, so it's bad, is the height of immaturity, I would say. It's weird that Martin Scorsese would, like, it doesn't make any sense.
Can you imagine if somebody had said that about Tim Burton's Batman, that because it's going to be a superhero movie, it's not going to be great, and they shouldn't make it, when it basically redefined and recreated the superhero genre for its time?
It kind of started it didn't start a new genre, but it popularized something.
It began the animated superhero craze. Like, it literally started it because it created the Batman the Animated Series,
Sure.
which really there was this launching point for so many other cartoons of the time. And like, it's just, man,
Or to be more specific or more relevant, I would say, if somebody said, "Oh, it's got, it's a gang Martin Scorsese's making another gangster movie." He's done
I've
that.
already seen- I saw that when it was
I've already
Goodfellas.
seen that. It's just cut and paste. He's doing
Yeah.
this. Oh, they're gray characters who are sometimes good and sometimes bad, and also talk in a New York accent, and also do bad things, but have people like. I've already seen that. I don't need to see it again. That was
Yeah.
The Irishman to me. Is like, I've seen this. Like, you're not really breaking any molds here, bro.
Mhm.
Like, it was fine, but it also was just boring to me because I've seen it before.
I think that's the perfect comparison, Fox, of saying I don't need to see The Irishman because I already saw Goodfellas.
I already saw Goodfellas. I already
It's
saw.
all
I
the
already saw
same
The
thing.
Departed. I already saw that movie.
It's all cut and paste.
It's the
guys.
same thing. It's a theme park.
But it's
you're just,
not. They're all incredible
They're all
pieces of
good
art.
movies.
Like, yeah.
Whatever. Like, at the end of the day, it's just gatekeeping.
Yep.
Like a movie or don't. It's
And
nothing
again,
bigger than that.
I'll tip my hat to you. You had the perfect word. It's immature.
Yeah.
It's immature, and don't do that. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for your support. Let us know what you think about Marvel blaming. I guess we can put that kind of coming down on Marvel for the state of film today, and your opinion on that. Let us know what you think of our thoughts on that. We want to say thank you to Granger for the use of our theme song. The song is a thing.
Yeah.
Our theme song, All My Friends Have Wi-Fi, and so do some of my neighbors, off of the album Dear Sam. Go check out Granger. They're very good.
Hey, our coverage of PAX West is still going on our YouTube channel. Lots of demos. We had some interviews with cosplayers. Lots of stuff up there. Go check it out. Some upcoming games. Some new content. Rivals of Aether.
Yeah.
It's been getting some traction because some new content that's coming out for this game that is loved by a lot of people. So if you want to go check it out, please do. We've got a lot of stuff on there.
Thanks again for listening, guys, and always remember that save games, save lives.
Bye.
My voice sings louder.